Everybody hear me? Okay, great. I'm delighted to be up here. My name is David Swartney. I'm from the Department of Civil and Environmental Engineering at the University of Iowa. And I'm going to talk to you about our Affinity group that was broadly based in the use of new media to improve communication and engineering. All right. So we learned today about Dilbert. Here he sits in isolation in his office. And we think, to get him out of his cubicle, one of the reasons he's there is the way in which we try to educate our engineering students in technical communication. We focus most of our efforts inwards, where we're trying to get them competency in talking to experts, their professors, the people they want to be their employers. And we miss opportunities to reach out to the public at large. And those are important opportunities that we need to be taking more advantage of. And that leads us to the IRIS project, linking engineers to humanity through new media. IRIS is inspired through the Greek goddess for communication who would bring the message of the gods down to humanity. And so we think that's an appropriate analogy to what we're trying to accomplish here. We think, in Dilbert's mind, we want to develop the civic engineer. We want to think about ways in which we can use new media as an opportunity to not just improve the way in which our students develop technical competency in their core area, but also expand their dialogue to the public at large, which we think is a critical mission of tomorrow's engineers. And new media is the tool that will allow us to get there. So what do we mean by new media? Our students today use these tools every day in their lives. Twitter, Tumblr, Snapchat, YouTube, Wikipedia, Reddit. We like these tools for a few reasons. One, they're versatile, both to the creator and the audience. You can be a novice and you can tweet. You can be an expert and you can develop YouTube media. To audiences, you can keep it simple when you're trying to get baseline education initiatives across. You can tailor it to rather specific and and well-informed audiences as well. And so we think these are valuable tools in which we can make content for students, by students, and for the people at large.
Let's deal with the mass in a cube. The mass is simply the density of the fluid times some differential volume. So that'll equal the density of the fluid times dx, dy, dz. And if I take the derivative of the magnitude,
the shear force goes to zero there, but if you just simply draw a line here, what you note is that our moment becomes a maximum at the center of this beam here.
A brittle material is a material that breaks without significant deformation under tensile stress.
What gives a crunch bar its signature crunch is that it is a brittle material with crispy rice on the inside.
So how does this tell us how robots move? The instability is caused by this nonlinear relationship being harnessed to generate movement and transfer energy.
I'm able to share my OneNote notebook through the class website, and prior to class, they download those files, and they can take their own notes right on top of the notes that I'm projecting onto the screen.
The ingenious design of the aluminum beverage can. Every year, nearly 500 billion of these cans are manufactured. That's about 15,000 per second. So many that we overlook the can's superb engineering. Let's start with why the can is shaped like it is. Why is it?
We believe these tools have are a great opportunity for our students to feel a powerful impact. They can disseminate to broad audiences. They can reach audiences and their peers in ways they haven't before. And so what do we need to do to get there? And so first things first, we want to aggregate. What's being done? What are some best practices? What works, what doesn't? Use that information. And we've actually done this by developing a Tumblr site that is live right now, where we want to eventually compile information from people who are already developing these techniques and integrating them into their coursework. That leads us to the next step, which is actually integrating these tools into undergraduate, graduate curriculum, as well as outreach and engagement activities. And then once you have that, run formal assessment. We need to figure out what are the tools needed to evaluate impact. And we can share those tools with one another to increase what we're able to do with these tools. And so that leads us to where you all come in. What do we need from you? We're going to give you concrete goals to shoot for. By December, we would love it if you reached out to our Tumblr site and uploaded one example. Maybe it's a way in which you're using one of these new medias in your classes. Maybe it's a rubric you've developed to evaluate the effectiveness of this new media. Then by May, the end of the next semester term, try integrating it into your classroom. whether it be in a class at the undergrad level, graduate, or into an outreach activity. And then finally, by August, get back to us through our Tumblr site and let us know what worked, what didn't. In terms of what we're looking for in assessment, we're starting small and broad. But let's start trying to refine those questions so we can reiterate and improve the use of these tools and these new media skills into our coursework. And with that, we'd be delighted to take questions. You weren't the only one to ask that, even in this group. And so Tumblr is, anyone else want to take a stab at defining it the best way possible? Can we bring up our Tumblr site, or at least the screen capture of it? It's best described, or I would say, is it's a repository for information in a very friendly feed format. So maybe if you're on Facebook and you have your news feed, or you're on Twitter and you have your feed. Tumblr is a similar format where it allows you to develop content. It can be categorized. You can see that we've got our hashtag here. You can list additional information in terms of what's the target, what type of content you're developing. All of this can be archived. And so it's just one of the many forms of social media, and we think it's a nice linear format that allows us to get this information in a way that's digestible. You can do more than just videos. So if you just wanted to do a text post, or if you wanted to put up a graphic, a JPEG, anything, that can all go on here. So it's multimedia in terms of what it can handle. Anybody will be able to upload to our Tumblr site. That is the hope. We will, yes. What was it you said, we only had 30 minutes? That's about right. Other questions?
Right, I mean, I guess you can think about that a couple ways, but one example is to challenge the student to actually simplify. If you tell them that they have to present a 2-minute presentation or something, they really have to start condensing, figuring out what's important, what isn't. I'm not sure if that's actually what you're going after, or?
Well, I mean, so there are two values to this, right? One is having the students distill it and articulate it back out. But then you would hope that that's not the end goal, right? So hopefully other people would be able to use this to help them better understand concepts. But at the same time, there's a creation. One of the problems I have with my students, they spend all their time Googling everything. They never get anything done, right? And they're looking at, the quality of their material is distributed across this wide range of value. So how do we help them not just get lost in the weeds?
One thing I've done is you can integrate new media into your classes and use it as educational purposes. And I just gave the example over lunch where the EPA came out with a report saying that fracking most certainly wasn't causing widespread drinking water contamination. And so a student brought in one article that was from a more liberal-leaning website that said, sure enough, this EPA report convincingly concludes there's water contamination from fracking. And then I would pull up the NPR headline that says, well, this report shows that there's not extensive contamination and there's nothing to worry about. If we're going to use the new media sources, we have to make sure we also educate our students how to discern what's quality and what's not. And that is an important aspect, because otherwise they will get lost in the weeds, because there is an information overload out there. I completely agree. But I think we have to think about integrating that into they're accessing these websites anyways. We need to be empowering them with skills to figure out, as engineers, what's bunk and what's legitimate, because we need them to go and get engaged in policy and other things as well.
So I was just checking out your Tumblr site. I do have an account. So I guess one of the things that I couldn't fully understand was, is it that you just post content in there? Because, for example, I just started watching recently Bill's videos. I'm always in awe how great they look, right? But my videos, I cannot just produce them that way. So I guess my question is it that you're just creating content, or is it that you're also helping other educators, which is something that I'm very interested in, learn some of those things without having to, search online for hours and hours and hours?
Exactly, and so the purpose of the Tumblr was more for you and other educators. It was to be like, okay, I want to use something new in my class. I want a new idea. And the idea for the Tumblr was you could just kind of scroll through and say, oh, that could work for my class, or that couldn't. And you can kind of get, and the idea should be, and it's not really fully functioning, it's close, but the idea would be, you know, you would see this, and there would be maybe a little bit of a PDF attached that says, you know, this is how I did it in my class. This was the class. These were the students. This was you know, for this example, it's up here right now. It says the project was create a viral video. There were juniors. It was a half-long project. It was 20% of the grade, and they were asked to make it for a target audience of high school students, and then make a quick video for that. And so the idea would be you'd scroll through, and it would be a way of aggregating, okay, if you want to do this, how? Where do I begin? Because once you start searching blindly, it can get overwhelming pretty quickly. And so the idea was, if people are doing this, several of us are, could we put it in a place where you could go and see, okay, I could implement that in some way. And then the idea would be, you know, if you have more questions, you reach out to someone who posted it and said, you know, hey, all right, exactly what did you do? Do you have anything you could share, any advice? And so that was the motivation for this. It was more for the educator and less for, you know, the actual aggregation of the content.
Back there with the mic.
You got it. Okay, I guess now I'm confused, but, so I guess I thought, my understanding was that this was about teaching students to communicate rather than teaching faculty to communicate? Is that?
Well, I mean, in this example here, I mean, I think it's
both.
In a way, it's kind of utilizing the media for improving our communication. And so I think we all could benefit from it. But in this case here, this would be something that you could take and give as an assignment to your students, in which they would go and create content, and then you would have to, you know, find a way to make it work in your class. And so this was a project that the students did everything on. Yep. But the question is, you know, you as a faculty member teaching your class, how do I get them to do that? And so this was more of a intermediate step in there.
So I guess, so my question is related to sort of engineering communication and what the role of that is as a learning objective throughout all of the courses in a curriculum. Because right now, it's usually condensed to your design class or your maybe a lab class where you write a report. And it seems like there's a role for communication learning to take place by teaching each other in the classroom, making videos for the general public in the classroom. And so I was wondering, you know, do you think it's limited only to digital communication? Do you think that's a motivating part? You know, how do you see this taking a role as for meeting like the larger ABET accreditation throughout the curriculum and taking some of that communication role and just dispersing it a little bit?
So I would say, you know, clearly there are lots of aspects in which we currently focus on communication in terms of technical writing, presentations, senior design presentations. We were kind of trying to gear this towards utilizing tools that are currently being used for communication that are not currently being used in the engineering curriculum. And so this would be, I think the idea was that it would be more complementary to those aspects, and to kind of that target that you saw. A lot of our communication techniques seem to look inward towards, you know, to talking to more highly technical speakers. And we were trying to think of ways that we could utilize new media as a way to talk outward, and with the hopes that that would improve our ability to talk inward as well.
One more question.
Oh, can I just add one quick thing to that? So another hope is that by giving instructors ideas about how to do this, you could really integrate it throughout the curriculum rather than it being compacted, you know, communication in general being compacted into one isolated point. And so this idea of how do we sort of integrate this into the overall, you know, approach of thinking and learning, that's one thing that we're hoping to get at.
Is there a way to use the new media aspect of this to get comments and feedback on the quality or content of your videos as a way to iteratively improve in what you're doing?
Yes.
Could you say a little more?
So, you know, we've had thousands of comments on ours, and people are forthright in what they say.
And particularly if they go on Reddit, a social media site that I don't know if you're familiar with, but it's really the single, I think, most powerful social media site out there right now. I mean, I have statistics to back that up. And they're particularly forthright on that one. And then when our videos are up there, I will interact and I will respond and answer questions. And one thing that we have done is we ask people to sign up as advanced viewers. And we have 550 advanced viewers, and so we will prepare rough drafts. We have one out right now. And we'll send it to those 550 and ask for comments. And those are made much more simply. And that's been very helpful to us to develop it, to find out what they're missing. Yeah, so interactivity is a key part because we're not television anymore, and you can actually interact with the people.